Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mississauga. My name is Richie Valdez, and I am the Member of Parliament for Mississauga Streetsville, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here today, along with Peter Fonseca, Member of Parliament for Mississauga East Cooksville, and Minister Chrystia Freeland. I'd like to start by acknowledging that the lands which we constitute the present-day city of Mississauga are part of the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Wyandot Nations. We recognize these peoples and their ancestors as peoples who inhabited these lands since time immemorial. I would like to thank the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 353 for hosting us at their training center. Before I pass it on to Lee, I'd like to share a few words about the IBW and the wonderful work they do for our local community in Mississauga and across Canada. Their impact on skills and training programs on developing the trade sector is imperative. And I'm personally a strong advocate on ensuring our trades industry remains stable and has the support it needs, including adequate training. As the IBW says, they look out for the people doing one of the toughest jobs in the country and represent roughly 65,000 workers across Canada. The valuable training they provide is necessary to ensure workers are able to do their jobs safely, day in and day out. As we mark International Women's Day today, I want to recognize the women in the trade sector who work incredibly hard and provide integral value to the industry. And I'm particularly excited for the program, the Pathway program that we heard about today as well. We know women play an important role all throughout society, including in our unions like IBW Local 353. I encourage women across the country to join the trades and to be in the forefront of this essential industry. I'm glad to introduce Lee Caprio, Business Manager Financial Secretary from IBW Local 353.
Thank you, Richie. I'm so proud to have the Deputy Prime Minister with us today to visit our training facility. We here at Local 353 represent over 11,000 workers, 2,800 apprentices, and several retirees. One of the things that is important to us is the importance of the industry and moving forward in this great program that we have with our Pathways program for women, and also supporting all the other communities that we deal with. I can't say enough about the amount of work that we do for the construction industry, but I am very appreciative of the Deputy Minister's time today to come in, and her MPs, Richie and Peter Fonseca, for joining us as well. I also want to acknowledge that today is International Women's Day, so thank you for everyone for wearing your pins. We totally appreciate that. With that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Richie, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Lee. Now, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Peter, for being here and for all of your fantastic work here in Mississauga and on the Finance Committee. Thank you very much, Lee, to you and your team, your brothers and sisters, for spending some time with us and talking to us about the great work you do every day and the work you want our government to do to continue to support you. I heard you. So let me acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, and the Wyandot Nations. I am so glad to be here with my friends, the great Mississauga MPs, Peter Fonseca and Richie Valdez. What a great community and what great representatives you have. And I'm really, really glad to have spent some time today with members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Today is International Women's Day, so I want to give a special shout out to the sisterhood I have spent some time with here today. Susan Borman, Karen Pullen, and Julie Daltroy. my teacher, and really to all of the amazing women that I've met here. Canada's 21st century economy is being built and will continue to be built by skilled workers. We absolutely need more women leaders in the trades, more women doing the very highly skilled, the very fulfilling, the very important, and the really well-paid jobs that people are trained here to do. And I really want to thank the women who I had the chance to speak to and do some wiring with today for the work you're doing and for the really important example that you are setting for women and girls across Ontario and across Canada. Thank you so much. You're doing really important work. As I toured this great training center and spoke with the members here, I was really struck by the pride that you so rightly take in your work. And you are so right to be proud. This is hard work that you do. This is really skilled, challenging work that you do. It requires everything from understanding Ohm's law, described right there on the wall, to being able to strip those wires, which I found pretty hard. And it is really important work. Our economy depends on the people who I met here today and on people like them across the country. And our economy depends on the training, including the safety training that they get here and at training facilities like this across the country. So really, I want to say, thank you very, very much. Thank you for the work you do. It's important, and I admire and respect you for doing that work. I'm also really glad that our government has been able to support your work with our labor mobility tax deduction and the Union Training and Innovation Program. And I want you to know we believe in what you're doing, and we are going to continue supporting your work for many years to come. L'économie mondiale est en évolution. Il représente une occasion générationnelle pour le Canada et pour les travailleurs canadiens. Et notre gouvernement croit que les travailleurs syndiqués seront la force motrice qui bâtira l'économie canadienne du 21e siècle. Notre économie fait face à des ventes contraires, ressenties à l'échelle mondiale d'une position de force fondamentale. En 2022, le Canada a connu la plus rapide croissance parmi les pays du G7. Le taux de chômage au pays se situe à 5%, près de son creux historique. Aujourd'hui, 800 000 Canadiens de plus travaillent comparativement à la période précédente la COVID-19. C'est une reprise de l'emploi de 126% contre 112% aux États-Unis. L'un des moteurs de cette remarquable relance économique a été les services de garde de jeunes enfants. In January, in part as a result of our government's investment in a national system of early learning and childcare, Canada's labour force participation rate for women in their prime working years was a record 85.6%. And that compares to just 76.9% in the United States. This is feminist economic policy in action. This is making life more affordable for Canadian families. It is creating opportunities for women, and it is helping our economy to grow at the same time. And today, on International Women's Day, I think that's something we all can and should celebrate. I very much believe that the next few years are going to be crucial for the Canadian economy. The global net zero transition is the most significant economic transformation since the Industrial Revolution itself. And at the same time, our democratic partners are seeking to shift their economic dependence away from dictatorships and towards democracies like our own, as we heard in the House of Commons yesterday from the President of the European Commission. Now, members of this union have been here in Toronto for 120 years. They have built the industrial economy that Canada has today. They have built Canada, and we are counting on them to build the Canada of the 21st century. And I want them to know that the federal government is going to be a strong partner for them, and we're going to be a strong partner in laying the foundations for that industrial economy of the 21st century, because we know that then you're going to be able to build it for all of us and take really good care of your families at the same time. Whether it's building the next generation of vehicles or making Canada a global leader in cleaner, more affordable electricity, or providing the world with the critical minerals that are essential for everything from cell phones to electric cars, we have a historic opportunity before us, before each one of us, and before our whole country. Seizing that opportunity will be our government's focus in the weeks and months ahead. We can create more good jobs, invest in our communities, and build the Canadian economy of the 21st century. An economy that will be led by workers like the ones I had the privilege of meeting here today. We can build an economy that works for all Canadians, for the Canadians here in Mississauga, and for Canadians across our great country. One where everyone is able to roll up their sleeves, put on a pair of gloves, and earn a good living with a good middle-class job today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. So thank you very much for everything that you have taught me today. I'm now happy to answer your questions.
We saw the Alberta budget bottom line was helped by soaring resource prices. As you prepare the federal budget, will those same soaring prices give the federal government some fiscal flexibility?
Thank you for the question. And really, one of the principal reasons that I'm here today is to work on the budget. And my visit here today was part of my pre-budget consultations. I wanted to hear from some of the working people who are at the center of our economy and need to be at the center of our budget. When I look ahead to the challenges in building the budget, I think it's important to emphasize a couple of things. The first is that inflation continues to be a real challenge for Canadians. Inflation and affordability. That means that Canadians are also facing the related challenge of high interest rates and of interest rates that have gone up at a historic pace. Taken together, inflation and high interest rates are really challenging for a lot of people, and that is one of the things I heard about today. That means that one of my government's principal responsibilities and one of my principal responsibilities is not to pour fuel on the flames of inflation. I think we all want to get past this as quickly as we can. So fiscal responsibility is really important, and I am very conscious that we're putting together this budget at a time of meaningful fiscal constraint. And that fiscal constraint is exacerbated by the fact that the Canadian economy is slowing down in response to global conditions and in response to high interest rates. Having said those things, we also recognize that we need to invest in Canada and Canadians. We already announced a historic investment in the Canadian healthcare system. That was the right thing to do. It was a lot of money, nearly $200 billion over 10 years. But I think all of us as Canadians recognize that a universal, single-payer, universally accessible healthcare system is something we rely on as Canadians, and one of the things that makes our country strong. And actually, I hope he won't mind my saying it, but one of the union leaders I spoke to today told me that his wife is an ICU nurse. And he said that she is really grateful we made that historic investment in healthcare. And Jeff, that made my day that you said that, and please thank your wife for her hard work every single day. I said electricians are important. ICU nurses are sure important too. So that is an important investment. It cost a lot of money. And of course, the budget will need to account for that. As I also said, we really believe as a government that there is a historic window right now that's open for Canada. Open for Canada to invest in building the industrial Canadian economy of the 21st century. And that opportunity is here now. Canada is extremely well positioned to seize that opportunity, partly because of the great natural resources with which we have been endowed, partly because we have such a strong manufacturing base already, partly because Canadians are great and we have lots of smart, extremely skilled Canadians. But to really take advantage of that opportunity at a time when the US is driving very, very hard to seize that opportunity for itself, I recognize that the government will have to make some additional investments. And I was glad to hear today that the workers I spoke to today recognize that too. So that is another area that we're looking at seriously. When you take those three things together, significant investment in healthcare, significant investment in the net zero economy of the 21st century, and the need to be fiscally responsible, you're talking about some really challenging choices that we're going to face putting the budget together over the next few weeks.
Do you have a follow-up? No. Okay, go ahead.
Hi there, Sean, CBC. Bank of Canada held its rate today as expected. Are there any bumps in the road ahead for your department that your department's keeping an eye out for? For example, the value of the Canadian dollar, which might push inflation, especially food inflation, even higher?
That's a really good question. And, you know, of course, there are going to be bumps in the road ahead. We've just gone through 3 years with a lot of bumps. I would actually say more than bumps. You know, I think as a country, we've kind of gone through this huge gaping chasm. And I think that we can all be proud that together, by supporting each other, we've come out the other side. And, you know, in my remarks, I spoke about the tremendous jobs recovery that Canada has had. That's really important because that's about the people I saw here today. That's jobs for those people. And that, to me, has been central in the work we did fighting the COVID pandemic and the COVID recession. We're not out of the woods yet. Inflation is still too high. And interest rates are really high and have gone up extremely fast. These are real challenges for Canadians. I hear about them from people every single day. So I would be, you know, either naive or a liar if I didn't admit to you that, yeah, there will be some bumps ahead of us. And I don't think that anyone can perfectly predict exactly what those bumps will be or where we will encounter them. But what I can say, and I believe this with absolute conviction, is that there is no country in the world better placed than Canada to get through this particular challenging moment. I don't know for sure how exactly the next few weeks and months will unfold, but Canada is extremely well positioned to navigate these immediately challenging weeks and months. And in the medium term, when we look at the big global economic opportunities, I think Canada is terrifically positioned. And frankly, the fact that the President of the European Commission came to see us, spoke in our Parliament, talked about the things Europe wants to buy from us, the things Europe wants to do with us, that to me is further evidence we have some tremendous opportunities ahead of us.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
OK. Alors, vous avez raison. Nous avons des défis économiques avant nous. L'inflation reste au niveau trop haut et le taux d'intérêt est à un haut niveau aussi. Ces deux éléments rendent la vie difficile pour plusieurs Canadiens. L'abordabilité, c'est un enjeu réel, difficile pour millions et millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes. Alors, je comprends les difficultés qu'on a aujourd'hui et on doit être honnête. On doit être honnête avec les Canadiens et Canadiennes et admettre qu'on pourra avoir des difficultés avant nous. Mais je veux assurer les Canadiens et Canadiennes à deux choses. Premièrement, quand je regarde les autres pays du monde, et il y a quelques semaines, j'étais à la réunion du G20, des ministres de finances des 20 plus importants pays du monde. Et je dois vous dire que quand je fais une comparaison de nos problèmes avec les problèmes des autres grands pays du monde, nous sommes vraiment dans une position forte. Et c'est grâce au travail des Canadiens, c'est grâce à l'approche canadienne qui est de travailler ensemble. Et je veux aussi dire que oui, on a des moments difficiles aujourd'hui et évidemment des moments difficiles dans les semaines et les mois avant nous. Mais quand je regarde l'avenir, quand je pense de l'avenir, je suis tellement confiante qu'il y a des excellentes opportunités économiques pour le Canada. Et une preuve, c'est la visite du président de la Commission européenne qui a parlé hier dans la Chambre des communes du désir d'Union européenne de travailler avec le Canada, du besoin que l'Union européenne a des choses qu'on produit ici au Canada. C'est un bon signal.
The grocery CEOs are on the Hill today explaining their high food prices. Do corporations need to be more transparent when it comes to their profits, their bottom line?
Thank you for the question. I am very glad that the Parliamentary Committee has invited grocery CEOs to come and testify. That is exactly what parliamentary committees should be doing. And I think MPs and a lot of Canadians have a lot of questions for grocery store CEOs. The fact is, prices are too high in Canada right now. A lot of Canadians are really struggling to pay the bills. A lot of Canadians are really struggling to put food on the table. And inflation is one of our country's principal challenges right now. Grocery CEOs have a responsibility to their customers, and they have a responsibility to all Canadians to work really, really hard with all of us to get inflation down and to get prices down. And they absolutely do have a responsibility to all of us to be transparent about why those prices are so high. And I hope they're going to tell us that the prices are going to start coming down.
Can I ask Garneau?
Quick.
Last one, very easy. Minister,
Very easy. I've heard that before. from
Minister
journalists.
Garneau is leaving politics today. In French and English, could you just give your reaction, please? Thank you.
Okay, I am really grateful for the question and really glad to have the chance to answer it. I met Marc Garneau in 2013 when I was elected in a by-election. And it was still the dark days of opposition for our party. I remember meeting him, and it was a real thrill. He is a great Canadian. He's a famous guy. There are high schools named after him. And I was kind of starstruck when I met him. I remember how kind and generous he was to a rookie MP. I am so grateful to him for his outstanding work in all of his life before he entered elected politics, for taking the plunge. You know, as a really distinguished Canadian, Marc didn't need to do anything else. We already all loved him. And he took the plunge into elected politics. He has served with real distinction as a member of Parliament, as Minister of Transport, as Minister of Foreign Affairs, with real strength and dignity. I am really honored and privileged to have worked with him, and I totally understand that his family wants to spend more time with him because he is a great, great guy. I'm actually told he's also an excellent cook. So thank you very, very much, Marc, for everything you've done. I'm grateful to you. I think all Canadians are. Alors, merci pour la question. Je suis tellement content d'avoir l'opportunité de parler de mon cher collègue, Marc Garneau. Marc est un Canadien formidable. Il était avant le début de son carrière, de son vie publique, de son vie politique. Avant ça, Marc est déjà devenu un héros pour plusieurs Canadiens. En tant que député, en tant que ministre, Marc a fait un travail formidable, un travail excellent. Il était un excellent ministre du Transport et des Affaires étrangères, un excellent représentant de sa communauté. Et je veux juste vraiment remercier Marc, vraiment remercier sa famille pour son sacrifice, pour son travail. Alors, merci Marc.
Thank you. That concludes today's press conference.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for being here. And thanks again to my wonderful teacher, Julie, who I think describes herself as a badass woman electrician. So, yay for that. Okay, thanks a lot.